You're listening to Radio Free Rhinecliff.
Welcome to Studio Property, the cinema broadcast for creatures like you. I'm trying to think, Devon. My name is Doug Wartell.
I'm Devon Irby, and this week we are discussing Some Like It Hot, circa 1959.
It's a charming little film about a pair of musicians who find themselves gussied up in drag while hiding from the mob in a traveling all-girl jazz ensemble fronted by the one and only Marilyn Monroe. But before we begin, this episode is going to air on New Year's Eve, so no one's going to hear it. So let's, until 2025.
Right, until 2025, right? Yes.
Because it hits the podcast feed immediately after. Mm-hmm. But I learned a thing today that I think that we can all go into 2025 with. If I could be so pretentious.
Ooh, please be pretentious. I like it.
So I listen to a lot of Latin music, a lot of cumbia. I don't know why I said it like that. Like I was like on the 92nd Street Y or something. I listen to a lot of Latin music. Anyway,
I liked it.
In the back of one of my Perez Prado records, something very interesting. Did you ever listen to like a Latin orchestra or even like the bigger bands like they clearly have a brass section and congas? Oh. You'll notice that like they punctuate certain movements with like noises like ugh.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. Perez Prado doesn't say ugh. 9 times out of 10, he's saying ditto, which means say it.
Oh.
So no matter what you think we are headed into this coming year, who your family are, who your friends are, who you're avoiding, how social media is playing with your fears. I think we all need to go into 2025 with, you got the theme song queued up?
I do.
By the way.
I do have it.
Okay.
Queued up, yeah.
We all need to go into 2025 all, duh!
Put that prop gun down. Put back the canisters you stole. The devil laughed out loud when you signed away your rotten soul. That's studio property, your studio property. Hey! Shut your mouth or you'll never work in Hollywood again. Ha-cha!
So Some Like It Hot, turns out, is technically a remake.
Yes, it is.
Of a French film that was done in 1935 called Fanfare of Love, but they couldn't find it when Billy Wilder and his diamond were going to write this jammy. They knew like they were really inspired by a scene, but they couldn't find the film, so they had to find the German remake of it.
Okay, that's actually a real twisty, winding road to get there. I like that.
Yeah, and
German
that was done.
Remake of a French film.
Yeah, it happens more than you think. But
True.
This one was done in 51, and it was called, I'm going to mangle this, Fanfaren die Liebe, something like that.
Oh, actually, now I wish I could see the name written out because I've been taking German lessons, so I might actually be able to pronounce it. Spell it for me,
Fanfaren, D-E-R, different word, D-E-R.
Oh. Okay, so it should be, of course, it immediately pulled it up in English, which I didn't want it to do. I believe it would be Fanfaren der Liebe. No, der Liebe. Fanfaren der Liebe.
Ow.
Yeah, should be
Perfect.
Fanfaren der Liebe.
Well, yeah, so they took this, I guess, little moment from the movie or the basic premise, and that's how we end up with Some Like It Hot. Billy Wilder and his diamond. Or IAL Diamond, if you're nasty. Oh. Yeah. Wrote this together. And they've collaborated on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But they immediately get to casting this jammy, and they offer the part, and if you picture this in your head, they offer the part of Jerry to Frank Sinatra.
No. Just no.
Could you just for a second, we don't have to say it on microphones, but just for a second, even if it's a little moment of silence, just picture one sentence that would have come out of Frank Sinatra's mouth upon wearing the lipstick.
Oh my God.
Yep.
No.
So a few quick decisions are made. They decide to make the movie in black and white, so the makeup that is the premise of the film doesn't look so blatant.
And also is a nice little nod to the fact that they're setting the movie and they're setting the story in 29. So the fact that it's a black and white film, which would have been appropriate in 1929, I think is lovely.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. Didn't even occur to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's in my head. I like that, this movie came out in 59, but it's supposed to be 30 years earlier, and they're giving this whole gangster kind of thing. Yeah, I like that whole, I'm like, yeah, I want it in black and white. That's perfect.
Before we start with that gangster whole thing, because it jumps off right at the very, very beginning of the movie, Billy Wilder gets a call from Marilyn Monroe's folks because she wasn't offered the role initially. Like they didn't even think they were going to cast a big starlet, but her husband at the time, Arthur Miller, the playwright, encouraged her to take a role with Billy. And Billy Wilder had directed her before in 7-Year Itch.
Oh, right.
So knowing that he had an opportunity, Marilyn Monroe took the opportunity because she had just had a miscarriage and was sort of recovering from that, but wanted to get to work to get her mind of that because she was very much suffering from depression at the time. But enough about that. Let's get into the mob.
Get into the mob.
I don't even know how to deal with that. But
no. This was not a good point in her life, was it?
No.
Yet she gave us comedic gold.
You know what's really weird? I've never seen, and we'll get into more of this later, I don't think I've ever seen a Marilyn Monroe movie. Not that I was avoiding it. I just never did. Huh. Yeah. I never saw 7-Year Itch. Or I never saw this one. This was your recommendation. Yeah.
This is one of those, as we discussed last week with, Cody and I were talking about our Papa and his ridiculous film collection. This definitely falls into that category. This is definitely a film he and I saw as kids, which I think was probably unusual as children in the 80s, maybe early 90s. This is a film we saw because of our grandfather. And I've loved it from the word go. I've always loved this movie.
Well, it's like one of the greatest comedies of all time. So, yeah, I mean.
So what you're saying is I'm not special for liking it.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
But no, you're right, though. It is one of the best comedic films of all time. No, I'm just teasing. But you're right, it is.
But it starts with 3 minutes with no dialogue. It's just a chase scene. During Prohibition.
Yes.
Which is fantastic because there's a car there's a hearse. As it's going on, you see that the coffin is filled with liquor bottles, but the cops are chasing this hearse. And this goes on for a while. And it's awesome.
Yep. And it's a real aggressive chase scene, too. I mean, we're talking, it's a very aggressive, classic gangsters. Like you said, there's a couple gangsters in a hearse and there's a coffin in there, but it turns out the coffin's full of illegal booze because it's Prohibition. And I don't know, what did they call? They didn't call them the fuzz. What did they call cops in the FBI at that point?
Coppers.
I don't even.
Coppers, see?
And the coppers are after them. And
the coppers, see? They're coming.
Yes, it's like every cliche you think about of mobsters and cops at that point in time. They're leaning out of the sides of the car. They're
and taking full advantage of those side ramps that were on on those cars at the time. There's a lot of standing on those side ramps.
Yep. Oh,
this guy's banking a curb on one, and the cops I was like, wow. This guy's like Tony Hawk over here. He's just it's awesome. What blows my mind is, so they end up, the chase scene ends at a funeral parlor, which has this incredible speakeasy inside of it. And how that's shot, I just love it because it's layers of theater smoke to give it depth. And this is where we meet, Jerry and Joe, our protagonists.
Our protagonist. Oh, Jerry.
We're essentially hey, look how charming I am. And here's my wingman. In real life, you would cover your drink around them, but
Yes.
But in the world of this film, they're really charming and hilarious.
Also, can I just say Jack Lemmon's stand-up bass playing makes me giggle every time I watch it.
Because it's in no way in sync with what the music is doing at all.
No, but it's so animated. And he's slapping that bass so hard. It's ridiculous.
Slim, what's his face from the Stray Cats? He's spinning the bass.
Yes. Yeah.
It looked way cooler than it was.
Yeah, I feel like Jack Lemmon had somebody help him with that. Was like, I need to be like amazing at this. And then it was a skill he had for the rest of his life.
I gotta say, this is probably like one of the best things I've ever seen Jack Lemmon in.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of great things, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like right off the top of my head, Odd Couple.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Glenn Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Love.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I was of the age where grumpy old men, God, I loved him in that so much.
He's incredible.
He is incredible. And later in this, further down in the spring, you and I are going to talk about another one, The Great Race, which I think he is spectacular in. And I know you haven't seen that.
Episode.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great episode.
So good in that. Tony Curtis is also in that.
We're
It's
like
another little
teasing
outing with the
people
two of them.
seasons away.
I know we are. Sorry, listeners.
We want to pick a couple of scenes to just to touch on because I don't want to recount the whole movie because, again, we're writing the show out loud.
Right.
But first and foremost, we need to talk about the party that happens on the train on the way to Florida.
Yes.
See, our main characters are hiding from the mob in drag among a girl band who are traveling from Chicago to Florida by train. Take us there, Dev.
All right. So, first of all, we got Joe, who has become Josephine, and Jerry, who was supposed to be Geraldine, but at the last second said his name was Daphne, which I adore about him, that out of nowhere he was like, Daphne, I'm Daphne. So they've hopped onto the train. They're getting themselves settled. They played a little rehearsed a little bit with the rest of the girl band, and they're feeling like, okay, we just have to get through this, but we can make this work. We can get through it. And their first night, they are trying to deal with sleeping in this train car situation. And Joe, aka Josephine, is like, Jerry, you're a girl, you're a girl, you're a girl, you're a girl. So he makes Jerry like repeat this, like, I'm a girl, I'm a girl.
Right.
Because he's like, we have to keep it together because literally people are trying to kill us. So we have to be these ladies.
So keep the horniness down to a controllable level.
Keep the horniness to a controllable level. In fact, he puts Jerry in the upper bunk and then removes the ladder because he doesn't want Jerry sneaking out during the night, which I think is actually amazing.
Right.
But of course, what happens? Sugar, and of course, her name, Sugar Cane, so ridiculous. Marilyn Monroe's character, who's the lead singer of this little all girls band, she comes out because Jerry, aka Daphne, covered for Sugar when they were rehearsing, and Sugar dropped a flask of alcohol, and so Jerry was like, I'm so sorry, that was mine, and covers for her. So Sugar immediately likes Daphne. She immediately knows she's going to be friendly with Daphne. So she sneaks over to say thank you to Daphne, which of course puts poor Jerry in this terrible situation where now he's literally dressed as a girl in a nightgown, and this beautiful girl who he's very attracted to hops into bed with him.
Like the most beautiful girl on the planet in that moment in time.
Exactly.
Is in the bed in his train car with him.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, so not only do I think this scene is beautiful because it's brilliant acting on Jack Lemmon's part, because here he is doing this lovely juxtaposition of, I have to pretend to be a girl, but I'm with this beautiful, beautiful woman and I got to keep it together. And then he kind of just wants to get rid of her so nobody finds him out, and accidentally they start having a party. So of course, Sugar's like, no, let's have a beverage. And then somebody else in the band, isn't it like Dolores, the trombone player, is like, oh, I hear a party a mile away. And so the next thing you know, all these girls from the band have snuck into...
One by one, they sneak up to the bunk. One has crackers. It's a whole thing. And they just like sort of, it's bedlam. Like they're up in this whole thing. Joe's down, like he eventually wakes up.
Yes.
But,
and Joe, of course, is like, damn it, Jerry, damn it. Like, what happened? Of course, poor Jerry's like, it was an accident. I didn't have a party on purpose. It wasn't my fault. Oh, it's brilliant. But also, I think why I love that scene so much is because it really immediately gives us the women that Jerry and Joe find themselves becoming, right? Because they're trying to inhabit a female persona in an effort to not be murdered by mobsters. And what we find, of course, is Joe ends up being this very proper, always has her lips pursed, right? Josephine is always like, and she has her lips pursed all the time. And she's like, you need to behave and keep it together. And then Jerry, as Daphne, is this very cute, almost flamboyant. You feel like he's in drag more, right?
That's a fantastic observation because, they become entirely different people in drag, right? And like much different than their male selves, right? And that's great. And and they definitely do become almost the opposite of who they actually are.
Right, exactly.
So, but then what happens in the party, at some point in the party, like Joe finds himself alone with Sugar.
Yes.
And we do have to talk about this for a moment because there is a moment that reminds me of Tootsie.
Oh, okay.
So she starts like confiding and they sort of bond. Joe realizes like how incredibly beautiful she is and but he's in drag and she starts confiding in Joe about things she like men she's commonly fallen in love with, what they're like, and also the men she hopes
she would like to fall in love with. Yeah, who she really wants to find. And and as you say, there is also a great little moment because as Josephine is trying to be a nice girlfriend and listen to Sugar confide and be nice to this new girl, or this new friend to him, as it were, also is fully recognizing that he's, as a guy, exactly the kind of man she always has a problem with and is desperate to avoid.
Which is amazing. Like, I don't know if you remember that scene in Tootsie, right? Like Dustin Hoffman, his love interest confides in him as a female.
Oh, yeah.
What she would love to happen. And it's something a little more aggressive.
Right.
Verbally. And he attempts that thing and she throws a drink in his face, not realizing, wait, I actually wished for this out loud.
Yes.
Fun fact, the script doctor on Tootsie was Elaine May. But yeah.
Oh,
you know what? We're getting a call. Hold on a minute.
Okay. Well, let's
do you want to answer it? Do you want to do it this time?
Sure, of course.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Give it the gusto. Dear!
Radio Free Rhinecliff, thanks for calling.
Yes, thank you. I am listening to the show. This is wonderful. You're doing a great job. Very, very fine job. I have a connection.
Caller, what is your name?
My name is Neil, like you're Neil Armstrong, the moon man, the astronaut. I'm sorry. In my head, I'm thinking cosmonaut, not cosmonaut. But here is my name is Neil, and
where are you calling from, Neil?
I am calling from Clinton Corners. Clinton Corners,
Oh, okay. Yes, I do. That's right, not too far from us, Devon.
Okay. It's very nice out here, very peaceful, very cold. We're very cold here.
Yes, today we are very cold. We're going to get more snow tomorrow.
Very, very, very cold. Everybody said to me, you're from Russia? Are you from Siberia? We're very cold. No, I am not from the very, very cold part of Russia, like every other person thinks. But there's no place in Russia that is, Miami.
Fair.
I've enjoyed your podcast. I have enjoyed it each week. It's very nice. The Radio Free Rhinecliff is an excellent station for me to listen to and to find out what's going on in the area, but also for me to say to you, some of the things that are going on in the area, I have something to do with. So you're talking about this wonderful film, this wonderful Some Like It Hot.
Yes. Yes, we are.
Wonderful film. I and some of my compatriots, some of my friends here that are in America, in New York State. I didn't want to say comrade because everybody gets a little iffy with those kinds of words. Yeah. I get it. I understand. I see movies. I know. So what I am saying, though, is that we have a little troupe here, and we do reenactments.
Like a military troupe? Like, are you taking over?
No, this is a theater troupe. A theater troupe because we all love the old. And you would we have a troupe of actors who put on shows based on the films that we love, the American films that we just adore. We love this film, The Some Like It Hot.
Where do you perform at around here?
We do perform at the Rhinebeck Performing Arts Center, but only, don't get excited, only when we can kind of sneak in. They have a schedule, and they will give us a slot. Maybe once in a while. Sometimes it is we cannot raise the curtain until I'm saying 11:30, 12 at night. So the people who come, usually mostly family, come to see our shows. But we have done our own. We've actually done this one twice. The Some Like It Hot.
Really?
As theater people, we have to get around any obstacles, right? And for this, the only obstacle with Some Like It Hot was our troupe is all female. So the show that we were putting on, we had all female playing as both men and women. You're with me? And then the women had to pretend they were men playing women. And so...
Holy Victor Victoria.
I was going to say. Sounds like a Victor Victoria situation.
Maybe it's not as good a choice of what we do. We've done some other films. We did Castaway, one of my favorite films. I said, I want to do this, and we'll adapt this for the stage. And we adapted Castaway for the stage. And you might think, what do your whole troupe? What are you doing? First of all, we had Natalia playing the Tom Hanks part. She was brilliant. She actually, and the one time by accident, she pulled out a real tooth.
Oh dear!
That was, but then for all the other props that Tom Hanks used, we have filled in with actors. So Wilson the Ball, that was a person, and
that's
the
a
tarp
choice
that he sleeps, that he finds tarp. And then in the FedEx box that he's trying to protect through the whole thing, that was 2 people. These people were really committed to the show.
That sounds amazing.
It sounds like it. So this is fantastic. So do you primarily direct, or do you also adapt the movies that you're going to perform?
I am both. It is a small company. We are very small. We have 7 regulars. And then we have 4 or 5 people who are friends of the family that we say, hey, you got to come, you got to be in the show, you got to play a FedEx box. Or whatever they're playing. For example, so the 2 women who played the Tony Randall and the Jack Lemmon, they're brilliant. And one
Tony
of them...
Tony Randall and Jack Klugman? Is that what you meant to say?
Did I say Tony Randall? You know who I'm thinking of? Tony Randall.
Tony Curtis?
Oh.
I know it's Tony Curtis. I think this now. But I'm thinking of Tony Randall because I'm thinking when we did The Odd Couple, that is the one play that we did and where I played Tony Randall.
Really?
Yes. I played the Tony Randall.
Or Walter Matthau, who played him in the...
No. We did an adaptation of TV show. And so and we weren't playing Oscar Felix. We were not playing them. We were playing Tony Randall, Jack Klugman. And we would come in, we say, hey, what are you doing today, Jack Klugman? And Jack Klugman would say, I'm going to be Oscar Madison. I'm going to be Felix Unger. So that was how it went. So the whole play was kind of, meta. It was very meta.
It sounds very meta.
Yeah.
Okay.
And no one came. No one came to see that show.
Oh, it sounds like you worked really hard on it too.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick question? Like, I know where the Performing Arts Center is. Full disclosure, it's right down the street from the studio here.
Oh,
yeah. So what I'm wondering, because right now A Christmas Carol is playing. Do you wait for that to be over and then you perform like immediately after?
We do our own version of the Christmas Carol, because you know that when, maybe you don't know, in Russia, where I grew up, Christmas Carol was not presented in the way that the way that Charles Dickens first wrote it. It was not the same. He is visited by 7 ghosts, And some of these extra ghosts, they are not. There is a ghost. There is a Jacob Marley, ghost number one. Then Ghost of Christmas Past, Christmas Present, Christmas Future. We know all about that. Then the ghost of Siberian Hunger, and then there is also the ghost of.
That's terrifying.
No one was supposed to be happy, and in the end, Ebenezer Scrooge is dragged off. It's terrible show.
Oh, wait, who are the other two ghosts? I have to know now.
Yeah.
There was a Siberian Hunger. There was Stalin's boot. You heard of the ghost of Stalin's boot? Comes in, pow, pow, pow. He just comes in, pow, pow, pow. And then the final ghost was the ghost of all misery.
Oh, wow.
Is very depressing.
It sounds depressing.
This sounds really not like a holiday play.
Oh, no.
Me for saying.
It is not. But Christmas, Christmas, you do it.
Well, it's either that or family, right? Like,
I'd pick a super sad play.
Sure. What is your next production?
Oh,
the next production will not be until we are fascinated with St. Patrick's Day. You have St. Patrick's Day. We are doing one that is based on the movie Leprechaun. So we are going to call it the Leprechaun in the Hood. So it's going to be a little bit the John Singleton, the Boys in the Hood, and a little bit Jennifer Aniston, the Leprechaun. Bang bang, motherfucker!
I have to see this. Is this going to be invite only? Because how do I get in? How do I get tickets for your rendition of Leprechaun in the Hood?
Mm-hmm. Well, I cannot tell you that now is definite. We have to see what the Rhinebeck Performing Arts Center has for a place. We are hoping, fingers crossed for St. Patrick's Day would be great. Anywhere around that would be great. But what you need to do is look on their website, their schedule, and there will be a little sliver that will say the Ivan Drago Players from Orsk presents, and that is us. That is the ones because of course, great Russian actor Dolph Lundgren. Ivan Drago. What a great.
Wasn't he Austrian? He was Austrian in real life.
Was he Austrian?
Yeah.
I thought he was German.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead, Google it.
He portrayed a Russian exactly the way we wanted him to.
Oh, got it.
Oh, okay. So you just adopted him as your own. That makes sense.
Yes, the character. We're talking about the character, not so much the Dolph.
Not the Dolph.
Brilliant physicist, is he not? He is,
and an engineer as well. And Grace Jones' ex-boyfriend in real life.
Yeah.
That's the top of the mountain.
That would be how to find us. And look there. Again, one of the things that you could do is you could call their box office and request the Ivan Drago Players because we would love for people to support us and maybe let the Rhinebeck Performing Arts Center know that people would like to see us more.
Yes. Okay.
Done.
I think you hear that, audience? Definitely call the Rhinebeck Performing Arts Center and demand to see the Ivan Drago Players from Orst.
Thank you very much. I know you don't like to plug, but plug. I like it.
Oh, no. Let's
Happy
plug. Wait,
to do
actually,
it.
let me give you the number of the Performing Arts Center in Rhinebeck. You can just call them directly at 845-876-3080 and tell them that you demand to see a play by the Ivan Drago Players from Orst. Don't tell them we sent you.
No.
But definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely do that.
That will definitely give us some credit. That is great. That is really great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. And man, I can't wait to see what you guys have cooking up for us next.
Well, thank you. I will call in if I have something. If you have a movie and I have an idea that will adapt, I will call back. It's been wonderful talking to you, and thank you for the support.
Thank you so much for calling, Neil. This was fantastic. By the way, we all messed up. Dolph Lundgren is Swedish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, said Swedish American.
How do we all get it wrong?
I don't know how we all got it wrong. The next time I visit you, we're going to see the Ivan Drago players from Orsk. Absolutely. Right? Oh my god.
I want merch.
Me too.
Again, the people who call this show, and it's usually like one a week for whatever reason.
I know. What's that about?
But okay, so where were we on this film?
Okay, well, we had talked through. We got ourselves through the scene of Jerry / Daphne accidentally hosting all the girls from the band in his little train sleeping car.
Right.
Love it so much. Okay, so obviously at this point we get ourselves to the hotel in Florida, which is where they're doing their little show, and we were going to talk about when Joe decides he's going to pretend to be a millionaire so he can go on a date with Sugar. Because, of course, as Josephine, Sugar was telling Josephine all the things, like what kind of man she wanted. And now that he knows what kind of man she wants, he's pretending to be that. So they go on a date. And, also at this point, can we just throw in a tiny aside? Joe E. Brown is the actor who plays Osgood Fielding III, right?
Oh, right.
Right, Osgood Fielding III, who is so sexist and so, like, he's just, like, it is the male gaze intensified. Every scene with him is the male gaze intensified, and it's just
he's just a groper. He's
a groper. Yeah, there's literally, like, a moment where he's in the elevator with Daphne, and we don't get to see
Jack Lemmon.
Jack Lemmon. And apparently he squeezes her bottom and she slaps him across the face and gets off the elevator and immediately hollers at him for grabbing her butt. But anyways, Joe has convinced Jerry to be as Daphne to go on a date with Osgood. So that way Joe can borrow Osgood's yacht without Osgood knowing so he can take Sugar on a date, which is this ridiculous convoluted storyline. But we have to talk about the scene of them on their date.
Here's the thing. I found things like that, twists like that, the whole premise of the mob. I thought those were pretty solid motivations. Like I thought I was like, you know what? I was on board with the whole thing because the foundations of the film are so strong. Like, like there's no way you're going to get out of that situation alive. Put on makeup and join this band and get out of town.
Right. Like, you're going to do whatever you have to do to get away. Yeah, you're right. And like,
and that was the first opportunity that fell in their lap. They did it that night. They were gone. They were out.
They were out. Yeah. And they even gave you that, like, those extra premises of like, oh, well, we have access to ladies' clothes. We just got to go see the girls at the club. We know they'll hook us up, give us makeup, a couple of wigs, send us on our way. Oh, this is a total aside. I do get aggravated when you've got a comedic film and they just skip over so many things. I want plausibility. I want to feel like whatever shenanigans they've gotten into, reasonably they got there. And you're right that that's one of the best things about this film is they give you a reason and it's plausible. Every single thing that's happening. Is it two guys in drag escaping the mob? And is that ridiculous? Yes. But you get there reasonably and you're along for the ride and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the train's not going to jump that track because it's solid. It's like, and so the idea that like Joe could manipulate this woman onto a yacht. Well, we got the yacht through this guy. But yeah, he's such an animated character. This millionaire. God.
He's so perfect in that role.
Yes. This is a tricky spot because during the date, he's making out with Marilyn Monroe. But, in real life, there was a lot going on, Marilyn Monroe. Now, depends on who you ask, because there was a documentary done in like the 80s, another one in the 90s. There was like one of them was like a mini documentary, but regardless, like it depends on where you're reading about the film. She was either pregnant again, in the throes of a pill addiction, or both. She's blowing lines left and right. And again, depending on who you ask, how many takes there were of like a 3-4 syllable line, like "It's me, Sugar," right? According to one page, it was 47 takes. Tony Curtis says later in another documentary that it was 82. But the tension either way is getting really high on the set because Marilyn came with her acting coach, a woman named Paula Strasberg. And when she would do takes, she would immediately look to Paula Strasberg and not Billy Wilder, the director. And it got to where it aggravated Billy Wilder so much that he had to be like, "Oh, was that okay, Paula?" And apparently she was like mortified on the set, like, "Oh, he's calling me out." So you have like this extra presence on the set that, was comforting to her, but not necessarily to the production. The actors are getting irritated. She's becoming irritable. Ms. Strasberg taught her an exercise where she shakes her hands to like relieve stress. But because of this particular period, again, whether it's another pregnancy, the pills, or the fear of the pregnancy, she's shaking her hands a lot. So this becomes a point of contention that Jack Lemmon brings up a lot in when asked about it. And here's the thing. Regardless of what she was going through or like what was happening on that set, nobody's paying to see Jack Lemmon in the scale that they're paying to see Marilyn Monroe.
Nope.
This is the first time I've experienced a Marilyn Monroe movie 2 days ago that I was, I get it. I get the Marilyn Monroe thing. Took me a while, but I get it. To hear these men in these documentaries talk about her in such a way, whereas like there's even a tale of where Tony Curtis, because we're here, we're at the date where when he does finally kiss her, allegedly on the set when they were done kissing, he looked at Billy Wilder and said, "This is like kissing Hitler."
Yeah.
Billy Wilder claims it's true. Jack Lemmon 100% claims it's true. Tony Curtis denied it.
And you have to admit, of course Tony Curtis is going to deny it. And if the other two are like, "No, really, it happened," and Tony Curtis is like, "No, it didn't."
It totally happened.
It totally happened. It totally happened.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I don't care how many takes it took. I don't care how frustrating it is. Elton John is not writing songs about Tony Curtis, right?
That's true.
Yeah, he's not like, "Hello, Tony Curtis." Even though when you manipulated that blonde, I was really mad and grateful I was gay. Like, seems to me you lived your life like a douchebag in the wind. Like, he's not. He should have.
I mean, it might have been a hit. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but again, I mean, it could be a little annoying on the set, but also like they're guys that don't know,
right?
Like,
yeah.
I mean, these are men in what, this is 1958, 59?
Yeah. Yeah, 59 is when the movie came out. So yeah, we're looking at 58, 59.
They won't even say period out loud in 1959.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So they don't know what's going on with her.
No.
But decades later, when they're doing documentaries, they're like, "Oh, she was difficult."
Right. Yeah. She's had a miscarriage, right? So she just recently suffered a miscarriage. She's got a marriage on the rocks because every time she's married, it's on the rocks.
Right.
Right or wrong, that's what it is. And they have no sympathy. There's no sympathy.
In fairness, we don't know how much they know at that moment. Oh no, but years later, there's so many books.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. You're right. Maybe in the moment, if they're annoyed in the moment because the information isn't there, understandable. But when you make a documentary 20, 30 years later, like you say, that information's available at that point. It's no secret. She's long since been passed. None of this stuff is a secret.
Right.
Just a tiny bit of sympathy, gents. A tiny bit of sympathy.
Yeah. The tension had built so bad on the set that, do you remember the scene where they have like a birthday, where they assassinate the mobster?
Yeah.
Because eventually they find themselves in Florida, right?
Because ridiculously, the mob ends up at the same hotel in Florida. Ridiculous.
But this is the part that makes me laugh. At the Italian Opera Appreciation Club or something like that.
Which is a cover for some sort of weird Italian mob get together.
Yeah, like a big sit down with a lot of families.
Yes.
And they want to talk about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which, Joe and Jerry had witnessed, which is what set this whole thing in motion in the first place. But they're sitting at, like, there's this big round table situation, and then a big birthday cake comes in, and someone pops out of the cake and shoots the sect of the mob that were after, our protagonists, right?
Right.
But the rest of the mob knows that he let 2 witnesses live, and they, because of the wacky chase scene that follows, they realize it's them, and they start chasing after them, but they didn't realize they were in drag. It's a whole thing. You got to see the movie. It's wonderful. But in real life, the tension was so thick that when they were filming that scene where the mobster pops out of the cake, Tony Curtis put a naked stripper in that cake.
Oh, God.
And then she pops out like naked.
Oh.
Yeah, there's photographs of it.
Really?
And it's in the documentary. Yeah, and it just sort of made everybody smile and laugh.
Right.
And, just sort of broke the tension up. But apparently Marilyn made things so stressful on the set that this was necessary.
That Tony Curtis was like, the only solution to relieve this tension is a naked lady jumping out of a cake.
In fairness, that's the solution to everything. But yeah, I mean, wow. The performance that you get in the end, regardless of how we get here, is for the ages. Obviously, everyone's heard the title. Everybody knows how huge this movie is.
Yeah.
It becomes the greatest comedy of all time. It was called this for decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just the ones where Sandman were popular, right?
Right. Oh
it goes on to be one of the funniest. And I think in the year 2000, it was still listed as one of the funniest movies of all time.
Yeah. And it was one of the, when the United States National Film Institute came into existence, it was one of that first group of 25 films that was selected to be preserved at the National Film Institute. So it was 25 movies they picked, and it was one of them. So, I mean, literally one of that, in that first wave or that first class of film to specifically be chosen to be preserved for future. That's a big deal.
So we have to get to the night or the morning after the date.
Yes, which is one of the best scenes in this whole film.
It's definitely my favorite scene of the whole film.
So good.
Joe sneaks back into the hotel room through a window to find Daphne / Jack Lemmon in bed with a pair of maracas, and he announces that he's going to get married because he was out on the date distracting the millionaire, and the millionaire had proposed to him, and he said yes.
This was definitely a Billy Wilder moment, right? Jack Lemmon as Daphne has a pair of maracas.
Yeah.
And so in between these little bits of lines where they're going back and forth, he dances and plays the maracas. And my favorite, of course, is when he starts, he's laying in the bed and he talks and he's like, Osgood is getting married. And of course, Joe's like, oh, who's the lucky girl? Me. And then starts playing the maracas.
And he's still playing the maracas and shaking.
Yes. And he's dancing and playing them all in bed.
They have a whole conversation about this. Where it ends is in a weird place because, Joe has to remind him you're a guy. And he's like, what guy would want to marry another guy? And then it becomes a little bit oh, you're from the past. Right. So,
yes.
But before then, it goes on for a while where he's like, well, you can't, because it becomes this really great bit. And he's like, well, because I don't have a thing to wear, or you can't because, because his mother won't like me. But hey, I don't smoke, which is a reference to something the millionaire told him earlier. But even at that ending of it, you can't marry another man. There's laws against it, right? It's actually playfully alluded to and not said out loud. Do you know what was less sensitive? One of my favorite movies of all time. Some might call it a guilty pleasure. I would not. I would call it a masterpiece. Is a film called Soap Dish from 1991. That ended with the reveal of Kathy Moriarty being transgender and she being a villain, if you remember.
Right.
A lot more offensive than, by today's standards, than what we just witnessed, like what could have been in this film, especially then, has to be rewarded. There are Chaplin movies that have way more offensive scenes.
Yeah. This movie was brilliant on multiple levels. So there's a lot of drama during the filming, and yet Marilyn Monroe gives this spectacular performance.
Yeah.
It is truly ridiculously funny. Billy Wilder quite specifically did not send the script for the film to the people who did the Hays Code. So the
Is the MPAA? Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, whatever it was. I think it was pre-MPAA.
I'll just say a bunch of letters.
Yeah, okay. So that first group before we have the modern
The
MPAA,
WKZE?
that's them. Yep,
Yeah.
that's them. So he specifically doesn't send the script because he knows that they're going to argue about it, and he's like, "No, this will be good. This will be funny." And so it's a real risk, right? So this whole thing is a real risk, and yet it's not just done to comedic effect. It also pushes boundaries in a way that, quite frankly, needed to be pushed at that time. So we get the whole delightful ridiculousness of Daphne / Jerry, you know, Osgood's proposed, you know, that whole thing. But it's done in an absolutely brilliant way that absolutely works. And ultimately, it comes out, and at first, there's a little bit of a squiffy reception, right? There's a little bit of a concern. And then basically they took it to like a college campus to play it. And these college kids were like, oh my goodness, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's hysterical.
Well, the first test screening didn't go so well.
No.
There was one person laughing, exactly one person. Do you know who that person was?
Hopefully Billy Wilder.
No, it was a comedian, Steve Allen. He happened to be in the audience that first screen testing. Yeah, and he was the only person in the audience that found it funny. And he's quick to point out, like, I knew before any of you. Like, this movie is gold. And yeah, I mean, the funniest thing is, like, someone came back with like notes you have to cut about you have to take out a lot of these things, because not specific things. You have to take some time out of this because the movie's a farce. And we're at 2 hours for a farce, which was unheard of at the time. Right.
Oh, it is unusually long for a comedy at that point. Yeah.
Billy Wilder took out 1 minute. Took out 1 minute, and it was like a scene that went on a little bit too long that he just shaved off. And he was like, all right, that's it. There's your cut.
Billy Wilder, ironically, had giant balls to make this film. And I love that. Yeah. Literally a film about a couple guys in drag. And the way he pushed that limit was brilliant. Now, I feel like today we can have a real argument about it because as it stands, you can't make that movie today because we don't want to see. It's different. You can't today have a couple of guys be like, I'm running from the mob, so I'm going to dress we're going to dress as girls. It wouldn't, you know what I mean? It wouldn't fly as far as like.
I'm trying to understand what you mean because the number one show in the country is RuPaul's Drag Race. So
today, as Some Like It Hot stands, it would come across offensively. Basically the way these two guys who are not drag queens and they are not gay men, essentially utilizing drag to hide. It's a little bit like Bosom Buddies, which really doesn't hold up. Do you know what I'm saying? From like that standpoint. So in a way, it doesn't hold up in that sense. However.
Oh, wait, you know what? Let's spend some time with this, but I'm going to announce it as a segment and we'll kick Susan to the curb this week.
Ooh, I like it.
This is a new segment that we did once before called Upon Reflection. Sound effect here. Go ahead.
Okay. So this movie at the time, 1959, Billy Wilder does all these things to push it and basically gives a giant middle finger to the Hays Code, right? And like you say, even though its initial, viewing doesn't go over well, but they find their audience, they figure it out, they get it out there, ends up being this huge thing. But there are little things that it does. So for example, one of the first scenes when Jerry and Joe have first dressed like the girls, they don't even have like names or anything yet, and they're at the train station. And Jerry can't walk in the high heels. And there's that whole ridiculous segment of them trying to get to the train to be like, oh, yes, we're Josephine and Daphne or whatever. And Sugar walks by them. And all we do in that moment is aggressively ogle Marilyn Monroe's behind. So they literally have, I mean, they're pointing out the fact that Marilyn is nothing more than an object for your pleasure. Because she's literally walking away from you. And they don't even really show her face that much. It's mostly her behind because they're making that point of how she's walking in the dress and in the high heels. And Jack Lemmon's character, they're like aggressively looking at her and they're like, how does she do that? And Jack Lemmon's like, it's like she's like a bowl full of jelly. He basically describes her like it's like jelly on high heels. Like, how is she doing that? He can't do that. And so you get this first moment. So they're just like viewing her as an object, not as a person. And then you get into almost the moment they hop on the train when, you know what I mean? When Jerry's character, because they're supposed to be Josephine and Geraldine, and it's, I'm Josephine, I'm Daphne. And the look on Tony Curtis's face, like, out of nowhere, you suddenly decided, you know, like, I'm Daphne. And Daphne's very over the top. And Jack Lemmon sort of accidentally turns into this very, you know, almost almost kind of a bit of a drag queen, a bit comedic, right? Very flamboyant, very over the top.
Yeah.
Maybe not, you know, whereas then Josephine is extremely demure and like, oh, no, I got to dial it back.
Yeah, Josephine kind of reminds me of B. Arthur a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Right? That's not out of left field, right? Like that's...
No, that is not out of left field. That is a good description. And that's B. Arthur pre-real B. Arthur. So I like that.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. But
maybe
then
Star Wars Christmas special B. Arthur.
Star Wars
I'm
Christmas
sorry I had to
special
bring
B.
that up.
No, it's okay.
Welcome.
I'm not sad about it at all.
Happy Life Day.
This is our New Year's Eve show, so I'm not unhappy at all that you brought up Star Wars Christmas special B. Arthur.
Or technically Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, sorry, Star Wars Holiday Special. Yeah. But also, as we continue throughout the movie, we get these other sprinkles too. So there's Osgood. Okay, so
wait, can I keep you at the train for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Because
keep me at the train.
I think that could totally be done because that's the point in the film where they are finding who they are in drag, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's fawning over her, which I'm sorry is just sexuality. I don't know that he's like, is he objectifying her? Yeah, but sometimes objectifying people is part of sexuality.
I mean, that is true. That is true.
Did he say anything demeaning to her? No.
He is objectifying her, but then we get more scenes as we leave the train, as we get through, especially like, you know, we already talked about the accidental party and how Jack Lemmon plays Daphne in that moment. And again, Daphne's so over the top and giggly and the girls all love her because, you know, she's so outgoing and ridiculous. And they're like, oh my God, she's amazing. Right. Like, and you see them sort of fall in love with this new member of their band. We get ourselves down to Florida. And as the girls in the band are walking into the hotel, we got a porch full of old millionaires, gross old millionaires who literally pulled out.
Okay, so just to describe it for a minute, yeah. Gross old millionaires who are in a single file line of white rocking chairs and dressed like they're in a barbershop quartet.
Yes. Yeah. And they all like pull down their newspapers and immediately start ogling all the girls. And it's done for comedic effect, but it's also pretty gross. And as a woman, even today as a woman, I can be like, ugh, been there, gross, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not so old fashioned version of it, but still like you've been there and you
Which
feel
is, by the way,
right?
a lot grosser because like they probably smelled weird.
Oh, they probably did smell weird. Oh,
yeah, they smelled old. Yeah.
Yes. But then, you know, we get ourselves moved into Osgood aggressively going after Daphne. And like that elevator scene is spectacular because it's just, you know, they get into he's hitting on Daphne, and Daphne immediately finds herself turning into like oh no, you can't hit on me. And I love that transition because it's so fast, right? So we've gone from staring at Marilyn Monroe's butt, you know, saying how it looks like jelly.
I took that wording to mean how does she balance all that on two pegs of shoes, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely. That is what he's
Yeah.
saying. You're not wrong. That is what he's saying. My argument is, even though that's what he's saying, it still has very much that male gaze to it. And in this very short
Right.
time period later, we see him already flipping to the, now I'm on the receiving end. And
Right.
I feel like as a woman, you appreciate seeing them on the receiving end, where they're
Sure.
immediately like, oh, wait, oh, this is what this is like, you know? And part of Daphne is sort of flirting back with Osgood when he's like, what do you know, she's like, I play the bass. And they're going back and forth. And he's like, well, normally I slap it. And it's kind of, you know, right? There's like this flirting,
Yeah.
this inadvertent flirting. And you're wondering, does Daphne even know she's really flirting with him? Then they get on the elevator. You see the little... the elevator, the
elevator numbers, they go back up, they go up and then right back down. Right.
Down.
Yeah.
And she's yelling at him, and she's clearly slapped him because he grabbed her bottom. And she's very annoyed by this. So that whole process, and then it just continues to go further, right? Even though like Joe is deceiving Sugar because he's pretending to be, you know, Shell Oil Jr. or whatever, right?
Right.
He's still trying to be the man she wants him to be, and then at the same time turning around and being Josephine and being very supportive. Oh, she likes a guy, and now I have to be the nice girlfriend and be supportive while she, you know, she's like, oh my gosh, I met a boy, right?
That's the interesting part of the duality, isn't it, though?
Yes,
like,
it is.
He is definitely lusting after her, but when he's in the drag character, the advice the drag character is giving is pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
which again adds to that whole juxtaposition
like
of what's
is it your
happening.
feminine qualities that make you want to relate with people or make you want to communicate with others?
Yes,
it's interesting.
So I just love Billy Wilder giving the middle finger to the Hays Code. I love that we're literally right, and we're sitting through something, and it is a true progression, right? This is a progression, and then right after this, we finally get to basically Jerry and Joe have been caught by the mob again, so they have to take off. But Joe realizes he really does like Sugar, and he can't just take off without seeing her. And she's singing with the band.
Right.
And she's so crushed because she's under the impression that Shell Oil Jr., this millionaire she's falling in love with, is just taking off on her. Right. She obviously doesn't know that that's actually Josephine, and Josephine's actually Joe, and the whole thing. And there's that beautiful moment where Joe realizes how utterly crushed Sugar is by being dumped and essentially played by this guy. And he, on stage, goes up to her and says, Sugar, no guy's worth this, and kisses her, which of course, again, F you, Hays Code, because you essentially, even though it's a man and a woman, it looks like two women kissing. So you get this moment of two girls kissing, and where everybody everybody around them, the whole band thinks that it's another girl, that Josephine's kissing Sugar.
Yes.
But Joe genuinely saying to her, no guy's worth it. Which is all you ever want a girlfriend to say when a guy has been a jerk to you is no guy's worth it.
Yeah.
And then takes off. And then of course Sugar realizes it's him, they're the same person. But this whole progress is, and I know I'm going on too long, but this whole progress is so perfect to me.
It is. Everything you're like, I want to watch it again based on, how you're presenting it, because I definitely would love to see this remade, but but it's a classic, so you don't really do that. Like, you should probably just remake crap, right?
Yes.
Make it better, and by that I mean a very specific Matt Dillon, Gene Hackman movie I might have mentioned in episode 1. But yeah, maybe not touch this one. But yeah, I mean, it still holds up. Because they played it so right. That
is the point I'm trying to make, is they take you through that step where they get to be a guy doing guy things, being on the male side of that male gaze. And then they get to find themselves on the other side of it and understand what that feels like and how incredibly hard it is to deal with on a regular basis. And of course, was it worse then than it is now? Yes. But have I, as a woman, found myself in situations where you're like, wow, can guys just not be gross on occasion? Sorry,
No.
Douglas.
The
But,
answer's no. No, the answer's no.
But you know what I'm saying? And
No.
so having that opportunity to find yourself
I'm sure
on
it was
the
like
other side of
disgusting like 20 minutes ago. Somehow.
You were not. You were not.
It was disgusting on the way to the studio.
But, you know, so that whole transition
Yeah.
having been done in 1959 when you weren't allowed to do it is utterly brilliant to me.
It's radical. It's nothing short of radical. I mean,
yeah.
I'm going to play the ending.
Okay.
Because we're going to put a pin in this because we do revisit this subject. Mm-hmm. But the very, very ending is we have our millionaire on the boat with Daphne after they presumably dropped Joe and Marilyn Monroe off and Sugar off somewhere. This is the most perfect ending. It's up there with like Chaplin's The Ending of City Lights. It's probably one of the best endings in any film I've ever seen. But with the dialogue alone.
I called Mama. She was so happy she cried. She wants you to have her wedding gown. It's white lace.
Yeah, that's good. I can't get married in your mother's dress. She and I, we are not built the same way.
We can have it altered.
Yeah, no, you don't. That's good. I'm going to level with you. We can't get married at all.
Why not?
Well, in the first place, I'm not a natural blonde.
Doesn't matter.
I smoke. I smoke all the time.
I don't care.
Well, I have a terrible past. For 3 years now, I've been living with a saxophone player.
I forgive you.
I can never have children.
We can adopt some.
But you don't understand, Osgood. I'm a man.
Well, nobody's perfect.
The end. Perfect.
Oh my God. So good. And of course,
talk about sticking the landing.
Yeah, sticking the landing. And I know you were thinking this too. I love that was meant to be a placeholder line and nobody came up with anything better. And we're like, of course you didn't, because it's that good.
Yeah. And they didn't think so. When they shot it, they didn't even understand how perfect it was.
Oh, brilliant.
But we were talking about relevance and the playing with the idea of a remake. But it is a musical now on Broadway.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It opened in 2022. Is that correct?
It was actually had been started and was set up to should have come out sooner, but COVID happened. And so it got pushed back. And so that's how it ended up coming out in 2022.
It went on to receive a leading 13 nominations at the 76 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. And Harrison Gee got a nomination and subsequently won Best Leading Actor in a Musical. And this makes Gee one of two first openly non-binary performers to be nominated or win to be nominated, or win for that matter.
The other thing that's brilliant about that is, so earlier I was saying, exactly as it stands, it wouldn't quite work today. So when they made the musical, they did shift a tiny bit, and they basically allowed Jerry/Daphne to lean into that role and basically let Daphne be like, yeah, I'm kind of both Jerry and Daphne. I'm not one or the other. I'm not, I'm not just Jerry. Yeah, I'm not just Jerry dressing as a girl to get away from this mob guy who wants to kill us. But I'm legitimately, kind of has this beautiful moment of realizing, oh no, I really am. Daphne is a part of who I am. And it's brilliant. So first of all, Harrison Gee is, if you've seen any clips, is brilliant and beautiful and perfect in it.
Where can I see it? Where can I see clips?
Honestly, there's a few like on YouTube, and obviously they performed at the Tonys that year, and then they were on our household. I'm sure I said this before. We watch a lot of CBS Sunday Morning in my house because Jane Pauley always has like the best little stories. So they reviewed it. She just does. All right, she just does that, and those nature sections at the end of the episode. I can't help it. I love it. Stupid trumpet at the beginning, whatever. But no, so they did a whole thing on it, and it's utterly brilliant because that, as much as they pushed it, as far as it was pushed in 59,
right,
there was a line in which it had to stop, and it stopped there. And of course, then in 2022, The musical was able to go, nope, we're well past a point. We can jump way over that line. We're allowed to do that now. And they did. And they did it in a brilliant way. And it's fantastic. And like Osgood and Daphne.
That's how relevant that movie is.
That's how relevant that movie was, is they made a musical. Osgood and Daphne do actually get married in the end.
Oh, wow.
Which is fantastic. And I absolutely.
Now I want to see it. Now I want to see the play. Yeah.
I was looking because I know I've said this before, listeners, but I'm a Midwestern girl. So other than maybe going to one of the bigger Midwestern cities, I don't always get stuff close to me. And yes, apparently it is in a couple months. I want to say in March, it's going to be not too far from me. So I'm really excited.
Oh, wow.
So I've been working on my hubby, and I'm like, Brian, you have to take me to the city.
You know, I hope it's not near St. Patrick's Day because yeah, we have plans.
We do. Oh, you're right. We do have plans. You know what?
We got to see Leprechaun in the Hood.
I want to say it's like that week. I want to say it's like right after St. Patrick's Day.
I don't know. Some Like It Hot.
Oh,
the Broadway production of Some Like It Hot in your town.
Or Leprechaun
you
in the
come
Hood.
here and
Dang
go
it.
see
All right. Well, now
Leprechaun
I'm torn.
in the Hood. Yep.
Listeners will find out what happens. I'll either get myself.
Oh, this is a cliffhanger.
It is a cliffhanger. I don't know what's going to happen now. Now I got to talk to Brian and be like, babe, we only have two options and we've got to decide what's going to happen.
Well, the icing on the cake of this episode is that Some Like It Hot just won a Grammy for Best Musical Theater Album at the 2024 Grammy Awards.
That is so utterly brilliant.
Yeah. So all day long, we could Some Like It Hot. Like it's forever, right?
It is forever.
And hopefully it keeps evolving and keeps, and keeps smashing boundaries and just being the trailblazing piece of art that it is.
These are the moments when I feel like I remember I grew up in a cinema-loving household, because it's not just about the silly things that you watch, like
Saturday Night Fever.
And I'm trying to think, what were Star Wars and, I don't know, Despicable Me, The Hunger Games, whatever ridiculous movies you're watching. But it's also sitting through, like, being exposed to Some Like It Hot when literally you're a kid, and not necessarily being able to process fully, but understanding you're seeing something groundbreaking, while also understanding that today, nope, not enough. Doesn't push the line far enough. It would probably be almost tiny bit offensive.
But it does a better job than you think it might.
Right, but it does a better job than you think it might. Yeah. Absolutely. And, I feel like it's on that list of, for me, it's certainly on that list of movies that had a massive impact, even if I couldn't fully understand what that impact was at the time. And I know you and I have two very different lists. Because yours includes Saturday Night Fever.
Well, here's the thing, because the things that on my list, they're very, very different. But I walk away from the things that you make me watch floored. Like, wow, how did I never see this before? Mm-hmm. But also, like, how grateful am I that I got to see it? And how does that impact me after I see it? These are very profound. So you make a profound effect on my life with your list.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But in fairness, you do the same to me, because you made me sit through Saturday Night Fever, and it was a substantially better film than I anticipated.
Well, see.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no, I admitted that on record.
Feelings. So that is our episode of Some Like It Hot. Technically our last episode of 2024. And next week, what are we doing next week?
We're going to do The Man Who Fell to Earth, because it is David Bowie's birthday. So we're doing a David Bowie movie for David Bowie's birthday.
I don't know if you know this. It's also my mother's birthday.
No, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. She was born on the same day as Bowie.
Wow.
And some guy named Elvis, but the only Elvis that matters is still with us.
All I could think about was when I took ballroom dancing lessons with my husband, that there was a kid named Elvis that took lessons at the same studio.
He doesn't
And that's
matter.
the only Elvis I could think of, and my brain couldn't process.
Probably not even to the people around him.
No, probably not.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, Elvis. We are really excited for you to join us next week. We're your studio property. Whose turn is it to come up with a
Oh, no, I think it's my turn. And I didn't.
We keep blowing it.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's my turn. All right.
Yeah. I'm Doug Wartell.
I'm Devon Irby. Don't let the film catch on fire.
What?
Because, I was thinking of Cinema Paradiso and the film
that was
catches
like
on
many
fire.
episodes ago. That was crap.
I know, it
Come
was
on,
crap.
man.
Sorry.
You weren't even trying.
I wasn't. I really wasn't.
Studio Property is mixed at Spillway Street Content in Red Hook, New York, and syndicated on Radio Free Rhinecliff. Theme song by The Corner Bodega. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram at Studio Property Show. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Spillway Street.